Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I'm doing something a bit different. I know I say that quite often from time to time, but a lot of times I am doing something for the first time. And a lot of my builds, I focus primarily on the prop itself. Rarely do I ever think about how it's going to be displayed when not in use. Because most of the time I'm thinking, oh, it goes on your head, oh, it goes in your hand. So a while back I made my wife some fairy wings for a Ren Fair costume that we went to recently. And it was super fun, she looked super adorable, and now she has these odd shapes that don't really sit up by themselves, and I need to think of a proper way to put them on display. So I thought deer mount. Obviously. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a mount for my wife's wings to sit on in her office so that she can look at them and so that they don't get all messed up and weird sitting in a closet at a weird spot. It's a game plan. Today we're making a fairy wing mount. Let's get to building. Here are my wife's wings, which have been sitting on a cabinet top for about 2 months, awkwardly getting in the way of normal, non-Ren Fair life. So I need to fix this problem. I thought about making it a surprise, but then decided that it was more important for my wife to have a say in what she was going to have to look at each day. So much like with the wings, this means that I need to draw a bunch of ideas so that she can at least get an idea of what I'm talking about. Starting with a deer mount or placard as the base, I started drawing a bunch of iterations, eventually leaning more towards shield shapes than other things. After the shapes were drawn and she picked one, I started adding details and brainstorming what this could look like in the end, to which she then had to make another decision. With notes from my wife in hand about what she liked from the shapes, to the finish, to the details, I am now making a Frankenstein's monster of all those ideas, making an amalgamation of the things she liked into one quick sketch to base my build off of. While yes, I could spend time and draw out a better render, the idea of this is just to get a general concept of where and what looks good. Kind of like those tattoo videos you see where the tattoo artist draws something that looks like a 2-year-old drew it onto the client's arm, and then when they do that little foam wipey thing, you see a full, gorgeous, hyper-realistic version of the thing. I make notes of what I could potentially do and come up with a game plan. I promise it's gonna look a lot better than this goofy sketch. I decided to make a cartoonish, whimsical version of my wife in her fairy costume as the mushroom person the wings will sit behind, with self-inflicted deadlines, professional development from school, and other life in general, and like always, I'm strapped for time. So instead of drawing it out myself, I thought I would let Gemini take a crack at it to cartoonify an image of my wife that I took of her in her costume. For those of you rolling your eyes that I'm using AI and saying to yourself, you're cheating, or AI's doing all the work for you, clearly there are two things that you have never noticed. One, I have hundreds of hours demonstrating my artistic abilities, and this would be well within my skill set. And two, AI is stupid. While it probably did save me a little bit of time, it took me over 2 hours of refining a prompt, going to another AI software, collaging bits together that could possibly work, adding in parts myself, and then smoothing out all the nonsense before I got a workable image. Then I had to convert it to an SVG and edit some more, but eventually I got something I liked. Sent it to my Glowforge to engrave and said it would take about 5 hours to do, so ain't nobody got time for that. I'm making a lot of decisions based on what I think time is going to save or not save, and it ends up washing out at the end. I switched the project over to scoring lines instead of engraving, which dropped it from 5+ hours to 23 minutes. So my game plan now was to cover the wooden tape, cut out the image, weed the image, and then go spray it with some black spray paint to get the lines I wanted. You could basically do the same thing using a Cricut or vinyl cutter if you wanted to, or you could draw it by hand, print out your image and trace it, use a projector to transfer the image, use a grid or a doodle grid, or a number of other techniques to try and get your image onto your material of choice. To me, letting a robot save me some time that I could use to knock things out like from my honey-do list seemed like a good trade-off. It may be hard to see here, but this 1/8 inch plywood is covered in tape, and the lines you see are where the laser cutter cuts through the tape and slightly into the wood. Now I have the super fun task of pulling off the tape in all of the areas I want the black to be. I would have had the lines engraved, and the grand scheme of things probably only saved myself an hour when you add in all the other processes that get added to get a similar result. Sometimes it's not about knowing exactly how you are going to do it or which way is the best. It's about making a decision and just going with it. Just goes to kind of show you that this project, like most of my projects, can be done 50 different ways and still get a similar result. The videos that I share on YouTube are just the decisions that I made to get to the finish line. Not necessarily the best way, but I got there in the end. spray painted with black spray paint. Now you guessed it, more weeding. That is what it's called when you're removing tape from the project. It also refers to when you do it with vinyl. I wanted to include all these steps in because you would be surprised how many people check out of a video the second they see the laser cutter being used. While yes, it does do some things for me, it also adds more processes to my work after. You can do all this without a machine. It may just take a little bit longer. As tedious as weeding is, I kind of enjoy it, oddly. You put on some noise in the background and just kind of zone out peeling back pieces of tape to reveal a nice clean surface underneath. It's like unwrapping miniature little presents. This is XPS insulation foam. It's primarily what I use to make the 20-foot Pride Rock build from The Lion King for my school band marching performance. I still have a couple of these sheets and I was trying to think of how I could use them. If you don't have access to this, EVA foam would work, wood, cardboard, or a dozen other materials that would probably suffice. It just needs to be rigid. Since the mount will be over 30 inches long and about 22 inches wide, in the end I thought this insulation foam would work. I did glue 2 sheets together to give me the thickness that I wanted of about an inch. I freehanded one corner, cut it out with a box cutter, then traced that same corner onto the remaining 3 to make it symmetrical. Then I can carve in panels, wood grains, and other various details with a box cutter or a hobby knife or a Dremel. The downside to using this XPS insulation foam is that it dissolves in most solvents and sprays like super glue or spray paint. So in order to spray paint my base coat, I slathered on a thick layer of Mod Podge to act as a primer layer. This will also smooth out any imperfections from my carving and my sanding. And bonus, this is an old bottle of Mod Podge, so it has some chunky bits in it. I fished those out and plugged the holes on the side where the 2 pieces of foam had gaps. I spray painted this with various shades of brown. With the base color down, I need to make all of my details stand out. So I watered down some brown and black acrylic paint and slathered it all over the gaps and textures that I carved. Then I take a paper towel and wipe off the high points of the surface. If the paint has already started to set up, you can use a wet paper towel and pull off more paint. You may have to do it multiple times to get the desired effect that you want. After I did the wash, I hit the high points with a lighter brown, dry brushing on acrylic paint in lighter and lighter tints to add more color variations. For my cute little mushroom fairy, I'm just going to use some acrylic paint pens. I often prefer to use these instead of paint brushes because to me it's easier than having to reload a paintbrush over and over again. I may have an absurd collection of various brands, and Posca kinda is my brand of choice at this point. I look at the image of my wife to get the base colors, and to give it a little style, I draw inspiration from my favorite art style, Impressionism, to add some color variations and just little dashes of lines throughout her clothing and skin. It just adds a little bit of movement and I think it looks cool. Luckily, I have several shades in most of the colors of these paint markers. Now I need to figure out how these wings are going to slide in and out. I debated on making a tall open top box for the mushroom fairy to sit on. I also thought about a foam box, which could work, but I'm not sure how the weight of the wings is going to affect it over time. So my next thought was to support the cutout with dowels or PVC pipes. This would allow for a little bit of wiggle room to make it easier to go in and out of, and it would be sturdy enough to hold the weight without bending over time, and it could easily be glued into place. So I cut out 7 pieces of thin PVC at about 2.5 inches long. I pushed them into the foam to get my marks around the wing frame, drilled out the foam, and then hot glued those into place. I did a similar thing to attach the cutout, but added a piece of 8mm EVA foam to the underside of it so it had something to lock it in with. camera, I made a little placard out of some acrylic sheets on my laser cutter with a whimsy quote that my wife liked. I hot glued that in the front just under her feet and then did a similar thing with a piece of wood on the back with 2 holes in it. I like to kind of over-engineer things at times, and I know that over time, whatever I hang this on is going to pull through that foam and eventually pull off due to the weight from her wings. This wood should disperse the weight of the nails, preventing this from happening. My last step is to add some moss and butterflies to the placard. I bought the moss off Amazon and I think a little bit of it at a local hobby store. The kind I typically use has a sticky backing, so I was kind of surprised when I pulled back this piece of wax and it was not sticky. So all I had to do was hot glue it into various areas across the wood. And that pretty much wraps this build up. When I showed it to my wife, it was so awesome to see her super excited about it. She could not stop smiling all day. I hope you enjoyed this build and it gives you inspiration to make a nice decorative mount for something that you're proud of. Something that you can look at every day and just get a smile from. Thanks for watching. And we are finished. It's kind of hard to get this one all in camera, but this is it. I think it turned out pretty awesome. My wife seems to enjoy it, so that's definitely a thumbs up. And it is a bit of whimsy that I can put in her office, so at any time while she's working throughout the day, she can look over at it and get a smile. And ultimately, that's the goal. Yeah. Maybe we'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make something hold something. Sure. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You give them one of these, tell them, much props. Now I just got to go put some holes in a wall and hang it. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.